Hey there, this is John Chen here on the another episode of an engaging virtual meetings podcast. Let me just tell you, this morning is bananas, right? So, if you're watching here, it's live on social media. Please do us a favor, hit subscribe, share, like, and comment. If you want all the episodes of this podcast, go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online and you can subscribe to this podcast on any of the 13 beautiful platforms that serve up podcasts. And did you know a new episode drops every single Wednesday? And on top of that, you want to learn how to be more engaging in the world? Well, come to the engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON, the Engaging Conference. Hit this, scan this QR code, you get a free ticket, or come to Seattle, get the paid ticket, and do cool things like the first 50 people get 5 minutes on my stage, which includes coaching from all the speakers who will be there. Now, I am just returning here from this beautiful city, and I just want to give a shout out to the Northwest Event Show owner, Stuart Butler, and his entire team. They did a bang up job of bringing the events industry together in the Seattle Convention Center and paired for the first time. National Speakers Association's Northwest got a speaker showcase where we featured 5 speakers a day, myself included. I was so excited, and it was just it was great to reconnect with so many people, and it was great that during the process, so many of us in the chapter where we now have 105 members got to know more about each other. It's so funny around speaking that speaking is actually a great way to network because when you get on stage, people learn 2 things about you. They learn about your story, and more importantly, they learn about how you deliver your story. And so, speaking about how we're going to deliver some stories, I just excited to bring on our next guest. This gentleman is a storyteller. He uses his storytelling expertise to help people better communicate their life experiences. He has woven his voice, video broadcasting, event productions, and 2 decades of IT and theater experience with curiosity and tenacity to deliver the name of his company, Calm, Clear Communication. That was so perfect. I can see him laughing in the background. Let me try again. Calm, Clear Communications. And this guy is such an avid bowler, he clocked a perfect 300 game. Please, let's welcome to the stage the one and only Christopher Johnson.
Welcome, John. It's a treat to be here
It
at
is a
Calm Clear Communication. It's a tongue twister. I understand.
Oh, let me try again. Calm, Clear Communications. How long did it take you? Like, how much alliteration can you do, Christopher?
You know, uh, it's always fun. Sometimes I do try and see if I can go like a whole paragraph, but yeah, no.
Well, Christopher and I have not actually met each other in the real world. We actually spent a good time, I believe, in the pandemic, chasing each other around in other people's rooms and sometimes on our own shows. He's a great virtual event producer, in case you haven't figured it out, which is why we became friends. And so excited to have you here. Number one, Christopher, what's going on in your life? Something good that's happened in the last week?
Something good that happened in the last week. All right. On the personal side, hey, swimming is going swimmingly. I've
Ooh.
been able to get some more laps in. They have enough lifeguards at the pool where I can get the swim that I want. So
Huh.
swimming is something that's relatively new to me
Oh. And why is it new?
because I didn't start until I was 56.
Oh, wow.
So going from being afraid of the water to loving my swim routine, well, that's a journey.
Oh, it is a journey. Well, I love the afraid of the water. I mean, no way to conquer your fear except to just straight up in your face, right?
Got to
And
dive in.
I was at, so Christopher now is a member of National Speakers Association. Is that right?
I am. I'm a member of the Michigan chapter.
That's awesome. And I was at Thrive, the winter conference in Orlando, and got to sit down. This is kind of one of the Christopher I arrived, right? You know, saying like I've been a member for 6 years, but I found a whole group of people in the after hours and sat down with them. And it's like for those who don't know the letters, I'll say a bunch of letters here: CPAE, CPAE, CSP, CSP, CPAE, CPSC. But what it means that is I'm around like probably 14 of the of the 125 Hall of Famers, and we just started playing puns, Christopher, on everything. And I held my own. They were laughing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I've arrived. I think I've made it. And it was actually one of my top moments from this winter conference. So, Christopher, for my friends who don't know you, like I know you, let's just take a moment and voice over the best things about Christopher. Tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. So, uh, who I am. I'm from Metro Detroit, born and raised here. My background is IT because computers are fun and helping people with computers is also fun. Uh, Additionally, my degree is actually in broadcasting. So at the start of the pandemic, when I was, looking for the next fun thing to do, leaving an IT job, well, IT, broadcasting, virtual, huh, I can do this. So in 2020, at the start of the pandemic, I worked with a few folk to figure out how to do Zoom and started my company right after that, having a event for a medical organization that moved their conference from in person to online, and they wondered, could I help them with that? And I did. They became my first client and repeat customers. So my background in IT and broadcasting and just my overall demeanor helps other people have a stress-free virtual experience.
Now, there's some serious value into that, right? Christopher, do you have a Zoom or virtual horror story? It doesn't have to be your meeting, anybody else's meetings. Like, what was happening in the other virtual meetings before you got there?
All sorts of confusion. People, well, one of the some of the fun,
Fun.
watching people do math needlessly. So there are people who are math phobic. I'm
Yeah.
not one of them.
Okay.
I have a minor in math, but watching people, okay, all right, there are 22 people here in the breakout rooms. Wait a second, carry
Break.
the like. Okay, no, you don't have to do that. You
And you,
really
you
don't
don't
have
have to do it out loud, right?
no. But watching them, it's like hey, tell you what, if you make me co-host, I'll just take care of it. It'll just, that problem will just go away. As well as the not knowing how to share. Okay, so what are you seeing now? That should never be a question you ask your audience.
Yeah. Can you see my slides? No, you should be able to. You
Well,
should.
I mean, even beyond that, the okay, I no, oh, well, that's not what I'm supposed to be sharing. It's like, okay,
Oh yeah, I love the share the wrong stream. My favorite is when they share the presenter view,
yes. And you see their notes, should they have them there. It's like, oh, really? Okay. Huh.
especially if they left something they did like be nice to this client or something like.
Exactly.
I think the other one too I really don't like is my own personal pet peeve is sharing to an unshared PowerPoint. You know what I'm saying? It's not in presentation mode; it's in edit mode.
Yes.
And then on top of that, there are some people, right, where they do the whole presentation in edit mode.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, it's kind of like doing a podcast in your underwear. that look, that look made my whole day.
Thanks, John.
Don't you know what I mean? Like you're showing all your people your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no need for that. It's just, yeah.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to my good friend and also fellow NSA member Barbara Jenks, who was a last story standing competitor this year, and she gave the quote here, going, "Can you see that?" This is facepalm, like it did just Christopher facepalm.
Pretty
Oh,
much.
so Christopher, okay, so what has to happen for you, like in a virtual meeting, for you Christopher, to be engaged and give some shout outs because I know you. There are some great examples besides you and I of like really well run virtual meetings.
Sure. Really well, well, of course, I think of Robbie Samuels.
Hey, shout
So
out Robbie.
he does a great job with virtual meetings and engagement. Um, and it was actually a course from Robbie that is what I took before I launched my company. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I've got this.
Yeah.
So, um, let's see, in terms of, let's see, my good friend Brenda Miller, she has very engaging meetings on virtual platforms.
Okay.
So she helps people do better at LinkedIn, but she runs her Zoom meetings effectively and efficiently. So, she always does a great job. The trick to engagement is understanding why your audience is there and
Yes.
how you want to interact with them, what you want them to do or feel.
Yes.
So, and when you're working with audiences across platforms, so whether you are hybrid or streaming, keep every audience in mind.
It's such an important part, and keep every audience in mind. I think this is why people struggle right now, Chris, in hybrid. It's they can't keep two audiences in mind. I don't understand that part, right? It's like you really have to craft what is the in-person experience, what is the virtual experience, and sometimes too. I do this new thing, right? It's kind of like what I call weaving, which is sometimes the two should have a similar, not the same, but a similar experience, which is like Chris is keynoting, right? And he can talk to both audiences. But there's sometimes where it just doesn't make any sense, right? In person goes to snacks or a appetizer or a happy hour, right? And while we are virtual people, we miss that. We don't want to see people, right? Having beverages and hearing just like cacophony of audio, of indescript audio that doesn't make any sense. So again, that's when I would split a meeting around that and saying, okay, in person should have their experience that an in person thing can do, and now virtual can have a separate and sometimes better. I really think sometimes the virtual experience can be better. Like in my own conference, because some of the keynoters got off stage, and because I have a full blown virtual MC, shout out to Joe Welch, who was my virtual MC last year. She had a green screen there so she could have this same background, so it's still like still part of the brand. But they would come in and sit next to her, have their own mic, have their own headset, and like now they could really talk to the virtual audience only and make a connection, and it was so important. So Chris, I was really, as a virtual event producer and as a producer, I'm curious about what your process is as you go through the most important parts of planning their program.
Well, see, that's it. The planning, that's the most important part. So, meeting with the organizers and producers to say, all right, who's doing what when
Yeah.
and why? Okay, nope, let's strike that because that's really not going to work in this condensed time frame.
Yes.
If you're going to have breakout rooms, all right, so what's the experience in that breakout room? Who's going to be in charge? If you're having, 40 people in a breakout room, somebody has to be in charge. What do you want to happen in there? How's it going to go? Making sure they understand what the controls in those rooms are. Um, for the main session presenters, I always require a backup copy of their presentation.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, hey, have you ever been producing and the speaker has suddenly dropped. They've suddenly disappeared.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So, hey, while they're getting reconnected, I can engage with the audience.
Yes.
If they get reconnected and hey, they don't have their slides anymore, not a problem, Dr. So and so. I brought them up. You were on slide 37. Let's continue.
I've done that. I've done that. One of my favorite stories was I was called to produce a 3 hour class that which was a certification. So people paid extra money to the conference to be here, right? And so it's another piece of value. And she did a really good job. She had a setup, right? She had a great place, good camera, mic, blah blah blah. And 2 hours and 20 minutes into there, she just freezes, and then boop, she's gone, right? And I come in there, and of course, our jobs as virtual sometimes as producers, is be an MC, right? And we step in and going, whoop, looks like we lost our instructor here. So hey, let's hang out. My favorite then is to promote somebody, right? And so I've been watching the class the whole time. Let's just say, Donna comes around, and I notice that she is like interacting in the class all the time, and that she's knowledgeable, right? She's already a subject matter expert in here. And so I just like, hey, Donna, could you just do me a favor? Can you engage the class while I find out what happened to our instructor? So she goes on, right? And now I've elevated her. She's now a star, right? And then I put myself on mute and I call the person because, of course, I also have the phone number of the person. This is more plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And she calls up and she goes, John, you're never going to believe this, right? My whole building just lost internet. She can't go next door. She can't go anywhere, right? And and I said, well, good. Is your cell phone charged? And she goes, yeah. And I said, is a good cell phone signal? She goes, yeah, I got 5 bars. And I said, cool. Here's what I'm going to do because I have a backup of your slide deck. What slide you're on? And she had presented this class so many times because I was on slide 83. Okay, cool. Okay, I got it. Cool. All right. So are you ready? We're going to continue the last 40 minutes of this class. And you're just going to be on the phone. She goes, yeah, I can do that. Okay, cool. So I come back and unmute. Thank you so much, Donna. And it's like, oh, look who I got back. I got our instructor. And actually, I think I had her on speakers. Like, I think I had to use a cell phone, right? And so she's talking to the class through my mic, through a speakerphone.
Okay.
And she said, now can you hear it? Yeah. And I said, well, needed to test that connection. Now, can you hear your instructor? And they're like, yeah, that's good. All right. And then she just dropped into gear and finished 40 minutes instead of having to reschedule 32 people, which, is like nearly impossible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the
The
things. Yeah.
but that illustrates a few different things. Yes, you
Yep.
always have to have the contact information uh,
Yeah.
and plans more than A. But additionally,
Yeah.
because you had those slides and she had done this before and she was comfortable in the fact that you were able to hold space when she dropped. So the room did not descend into chaos.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And then I'm betting because I know you a little bit, John. You're an active listener. So the rest of that 20 minutes was not spent with her going, next slide, next slide, next slide. It was you're listening, you know what the presentation looks like. So you can say, oh, and yeah, and you bring up those next slides as if she is controlling them herself.
Right. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
magic of a producer.
It's magical. Oh, Barbara Jenks. What a great and seamless way to work through that situation. Thank you, Barbara. Good morning to you. I'll share one of my other breakout tips, and maybe Chris, you got another tip here. Is that I we're talking about too. It's not just sometimes the virtual or the in-person audience. You have to think about all the audiences, and one of the really key audiences is the person watching the recording, because that's more and more common. Right. Well, okay, we give the link, and a lot of times everybody wants the link. Now, if they actually watch it, okay, it's like 20, 30%. But it's still important that if they do watch it, that they can have an experience. And I'm producing for that so you don't have to go through it and edit again, because I hate that. I don't want to do it again, right? Unless my client doesn't want to pay me twice. So one of my favorite breakout tips is leave a group in the main room. So you make all your breakout rooms, all right? You split them up into 4 and 5 or whatever number you chose. And then if Krister's is the speaker, I will take people like out of the first or last room and put them back in the main room, right? And then, and here's the reason why. So on the recording, they don't have, 8 to 10 minutes of dead time. They see Christopher working with 3 or 4 people, and it's really cool because there's 4 or 5 people say, "Oh my gosh, I get to get time with the instructor and not just some breakout room monitor or whatever." And the person who's watching the recording gets an experience and figure out like, and they can now either do it themselves or they can be the lazy and just listen to it while they're vacuuming and doing the dishes, which we know they do, and get the value of that breakout. So I'm curious, Christopher, like what's a tip that you discovered over the last 5 years that you really like to do?
So one of my favorite things is enabling the transcript
Mm, mm, mm.
because, all right, when my children were small, we turned on closed captioning so that we could read the screen while we were, like actively trying to put the kids down to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Volume on low. Okay. Then, all right, well, hey, wait a second. Zoom has closed captioning. That is wonderful. Okay, wait, even more, there's transcription. So as a host, you should always have transcription on. That allows people to engage in a different way. And then also, if you turn transcription on, and you should,
Yes.
let them save the transcript.
Yes, I do that. It's on by
E-
default.
Exactly. Because how many times have you been in a meeting where someone has dropped a gem and you say, oh, if only I were taking notes?
Yeah, or I missed that. What was like they give 3 points. I got 2 letters. I'm like, oh, I'm the completion guy too, right? I want to finish the third letter and I missed it. But you can go back and see it in the transcript.
Exactly. And uh, I I was working with a potential client, and I had transcript on. I was showing him that, and I used a word that he had not heard,
Hmm.
interstitial. I was describing what I do as I hold that interstitial space between the speaker and the audience, between the presenter and everything else that's going on, making sure the tech works.
Yes.
Uh, and he said, interstitial, I've never heard that word. How do you spell it? I said, well, if you look in the transcript, wait, the transcript has it? Yes, it does.
The what? Right?
And
So
so
watch this.
that, yeah.
Now watch this. I have never done this on a live. Whoops! Oh, I'll show you.
Uh-oh.
I've never done this on a live show. Let's see if I can do this.
Without a net.
Dun 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 dun. Here we go. Okay, so oh, I was trying to do this part here too, so I'm gonna have to scroll up. But one
Oh,
of the things that I'm showing here, right? I was working with a potential client, so I'm reading the transcript here, right? This is what it looks like for the user. So, by the way, so those of you who have ever been guest on a place, if you click a button, and then the host has to turn it on. All right, you have to approve it and say, okay, I'll give you transcripts. And I don't know why people don't do this. There are some people who we will never give them transcripts. What are you hiding? I don't know what you're hiding, right? We're already talking about it. It's already out there. So these are the things like that are in here that will be part of the transcript. And there's so many super repurposing things too with this, Christopher. It's like that you can take that transcript and make a blog post out of it. You can shove it in AI and get a summary. I mean, there's so many other things that you can do with that we learned from the pandemic that continue to add value that most people don't know. Hey, I'm curious if you used any of Zoom's AI features. Like, okay, I see, I got the AI companion on today, and there are some parts which uh let's see if I can do it this way. Catch me up. There's like it was if the AI companion was on and you join a meeting late, you can go, I think, sometimes to the AI companion and ask, can you catch me up or can you summarize something or another? And then you don't have to look like the, I know, I'm sorry to the late, what did we discuss meeting. You can do it yourself. I'm curious, Chris, yeah, Chris, have you used any of Zoom's AI features?
I have. I like the AI summary. Uh,
Yes.
it, it gives a reasonable summary. So you combine that with the transcript, and all right, now you have an easily repurposable set of content.
Yes.
So, yeah. Um, other other things I think people should be aware of, the accessibility options.
Yes.
So, in addition to closed captioning, hey, you can have uh, the chat and the captions be the size that you need them.
Yes. This is like Robbie's favorite trick, right? So for those who are on Zoom, go to your next Zoom meeting, go and click in the chat and hit like Control Plus.
Or
Right?
if you're on a Mac, Command Plus.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. We got both worlds. We're super inclusive today. And my favorite too with that, Chris, is like now one of the other things you can do with it in a hybrid environment, for instance, is you can get like a large TV, and the only thing it's dedicated is the chat. And you drop the chat and make it full screen, and then expand it. Actually, my good friend who's staying with us today, Adam Bacher, who came in, who's the photographer for our program, came back and he said that he got a chance to keynote last year, and he said he felt closer to the virtual audience than the in-person audience. And one of the reasons is because we had such a large chat. We had the gallery, so you could actually see right the facial reactions of those who were virtual, and he could see the chat. And so he is one of those people. Not this is not for everybody, but he's one of those people who can look at the chat and respond to immediately, like I'm doing here with Barbara. Barbara said, "Oh man, I love that. Provide a transcript." And so, and the best part too is that because I said her name, Barbara's going to be like, "Who's saying my name?" Oh, I'm so engaged. John Chang just gave me a shout out. Oh, that feels good, right? So yeah, those are some cool things that we can do.
Exactly. And as to your point, nothing cuts through the cacophony of the chaos like hearing your own name.
You got to do that again. Do it again.
It's
I want
true.
to. I know. I want to hear the alliteration. It's so good.
Oh,
It's so good, Christopher.
nothing cuts through the cacophony of chaos like the clarity of hearing your own name.
Oh man,
Because the
catchphrase.
moment you said Barbara, she looked at the screen.
She did. She. I don't even have to see her. I know she did. That's great. And Chris, you're an NSA now, right? That's a catchphrase that um, when you do that in your keynote, it's a thing people remember, right? And the big caption, right, is biggest font is the Guy Kawasaki tip, 128 point font or nothing, right? Do not put 128. Do not put 4,000 words on your slide. Put 8 or 10 or 7 great ones, and you got it right, Chris. When everybody in the audience does this, they bring up their phone. They're taking photos of your slides. There's research. I don't know if you heard this research. There's research that says if someone is taking pictures of your slide, whether they ever look at it or not, it's like note taking. They are more likely to remember the content of that slide with the act of taking a photo of that slide.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. Chris, you've been around now. All right, you've been in the field
Wait,
for.
did you just call me old, sir?
No, I'm telling you, you're seasoned.
Sir? All right.
I feel Jimi Hendrix. Are you experienced? I just got called in another email too, so I feel how you're feeling right now. It's all right.
But here's the thing. I have to call you out on this because, sir, in your waiting room, while I was waiting to join you as a guest on this illustrious stage, and
Yeah.
by the way, you have the best snacks in the green room ever. But in the waiting room, I couldn't help but notice that you've been online since Prodigy.
That's as old as dirt slide. Now, hold on, I'm gonna see if I know I have it here somewhere. I old as dirt, old as dirt, man. Yes. I don't even remember what question I was gonna ask you.
I, I apologize. Continue. You were saying I'm seasoned. So your seasoned question is
Watch this. We're gonna show our age. The millennial, I mean the generational speakers in the house are gonna love this. Peabody set the Wayback Machine. Oh, look what I'm also showing you here too. Right? Do you know you could do this in PowerPoint? Right? Watch this. Watch this. This is gonna be really fun too. Okay, give me any language. Give me any foreign language.
Urdu.
Urdu. Let me see. I think I have it. Spoken Urdu. E-R?
You are, I think.
You are, right? Urdu. Oh, yeah, I got Urdu. Okay, cool. Ready? I am old as dirt, and now is the time we'll have captions in Urdu. Oh my God, look at that. Right to left, too. Right to left. Okay, the question again is, Christopher, with all your seasons, I can't even do it. Okay, I can do this, I promise. Because you have the ability to see trends in the future. Chris, what do you think is the future of virtual and hybrid for you?
The future of virtual and hybrid centers around, I think, engagement and an additional screen. So whether you're in person, there's going to be an additional screen that you engage with. If you're virtual, it'll still add in an additional screen. We're seeing a lot of that now, but I
Mm,
think that's just going to continue, where
mm,
that's the norm, that's the expectation. So every meeting becomes a two device or multiple screen situation.
mm,
Whether you are, you know, there is an app on the third party platform or something else, all your handouts are delivered in a third party app that you're looking at on a different screen. Uh,
mm.
how about you? Where do you see this going?
Well, while you're saying this tip, have you heard of the term the third place?
Yes.
Do you remember anything about the third place? It's okay if you don't.
Uh,
Because you're seasoned.
I know it's one of those things. I help me refresh my memory.
The third place was, I think, made popular, but probably not coined by the Starbucks CEO, Howard Schultz. And it says that, well, the first place is your home. The second place is usually your work. The third place, he was trying to make Starbucks the third place. The
Yeah.
third place is where you spend your time when you're not at home and work. And that's why the coffee house feel was so important. It's the place where you meet your friends. It's the place where you build community. Right? It's a place that sometimes you go when you don't want to be at home and at work. Right? and and so I think that the third screen should be a term that you and I should start to make popular. And the third screen, it says, what's the third screen that engages our attendees? Right. And so, for instance, I gave an engagement talk at this conference that I was just at. And the thing that I did was I used our good friend Lux's Narion's Stream Alive, which I'm a huge fan of. And I said, the one thing we learned in the pandemic is that there is one place, maybe it's the third screen, where everybody can talk at the same time. That's called the chat. And so his app brings the chat back into, in person.
Mm,
And I think that's so important. So why I care so much is it's the one place that the whole audience can engage at the same time.
that's true. And
And
I love that tip of putting the chat in a separate window on the large screen at a hybrid event so everyone can see it and engage it.
I do that. And you warn people though. By the way, the best tip too is warn people saying the chat is open and or visually show it. But people like Tony Robbins and with Sage Events and things like that, the chat's blowing up, right? It's just like if you don't watch Twitch, go watch Twitch with the kids who are playing games, and the chat moves so fast, but it gives a feeling of who's watching and how many people are watching, and also the pace also shows you how engaged are the things that you're saying. It's kind of like QVC, like in QVC, right? They got a real time monitor at QVC that says how much either people are buying or calling or clicking, and they use that feedback to going, oh, that works. Well, let's keep doing that, right?
And see, so two things that people should know with the chat.
Yes.
Uh, if you're going to do that with the chat, have somebody dedicated to monitoring it.
Oh, amen. Get a virtual MC.
Exactly. Give this, and a monitor has the ability to not only look at the chat and make sure it's appropriate, but also remove things because, hey, people can inadvertently type the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's intentional, other times it's not. But having a monitor there keeps it safe.
Yes.
Now, John, what are your thoughts on the ability to uh, allowing people to delete or edit what they placed in the chat?
Oh, I'm a big fan. I'm gonna allow it, and because like I accidentally chatted something to everyone that was private, I can fix it, right? So I can recall my own message. Often when we're typing in chat, we typo, and for those of us who care about our grammatical stuff as a Gen Xer, right, we go back and going, oh God, I would like to fix that typo. Otherwise, you have to rechat, right? Have you seen somebody rechat? I'm like, I
Yeah.
meant this, right? And so just
Asterisk and
yeah.
then the correction. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I give people the ability to edit and delete something that they placed there inadvertently or yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, time to wrap this up. So let's see
Okay.
if we could, if you could magically, if you could magically get people to remember one thing from this podcast, what do you want it to be?
Virtual events are better when you have a producer.
Amen. All right. My favorite. I love too. Sometimes these things come around, and one of my friends, Gil coined the term. He just came back and he says, "Never Zoom alone." Right.
I love that phrase.
Oh yeah, yeah. Gil coined it, and I credit him for giving that because it's so true. Don't do it alone. It's still too complicated, right? We're talking about how many screens do we have? This is how many I have when I'm producing with you, and it allows me to do things other producers can't do. I can watch this. I can see the PowerPoint. I can watch what's happening even on social media or the inside, and I can also be chatting in the background while you're keynoting to fix up all the stuff before you get on.
Exactly. And so the other thing, do you have an image of your travel kit? Because that is also quite impressive.
Oh, I actually do have I have this one, which is for when I produce hybrid. One of the number one problems is too many cables, right? You got to plug them all back in, and so this box, at least in Seattle, all I have to do is that 80% of the cables stay, and I pop over in the table and hook up the cameras, and sometimes in as little as 30 minutes. I can be online. And actually, I just packed a kit. I'm going to San Diego to social media marketing world, and I'm bringing something that is going to allow us to record our breakout rooms.
Perfect. Oh, see, yeah, that's another feature that people often, it's like, well, what do you mean? No, you have to have somebody in there to record if you want to record it.
If you want to do it good, man, people like somebody else in some other conference are just like, we're just going to record the slides and the audio. Oh, ouch. Oh, babe. Oh, you just hurt me a little bit.
Or here's another one I'm sure that will cause just as much pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hybrid. We stuck a camera in the back of the room.
Oh. I call that hybrid level 0, by the way. I have 0. There's 3 levels of hybrid, and that's 0.
Camera in the
Oh,
back of the room is
yeah.
not hybrid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and nobody monitoring it too. On top of that, right? You have no idea. But I did it at, like actually 15 years ago. I actually broadcasted the first Meeting Professional International meeting because I could just to try it and see what it was like, and then it just led me to like, oh, you got to do all these other things to have it be better. But it did allow people across the state to actually see the content. And funny thing, 15 years later, they called me back. They called back and they said, John, we actually want to do hybrid. And now I brought this thing in, and they're blown away. They were blown away about how much you can do in hybrid. Because again, we have all these good friends in Eastern Washington, and they got to drive like 9 hours round trip to attend a 2 hour meeting. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Chris, why don't you do me one beautiful voiceover? Any sage advice, key phrase that you have to end today's podcast?
Sure, I'll go back to uh, don't let the cacophony of chaos consume your Zoom.
Mm,
Hire a professional.
I like that too. You're gonna have to trademark that too. Chris, thank you so much. You're dropping bombs all over the place. Barbara appreciates you, and everyone else who sees and hears this podcast. Go check him out. I put his link out there. Click the link, especially if you need a producer. Chris is one of the best, and I'm just honored too, though, that you're part of NSA, and I can't wait to see you at some meeting somewhere in the real world. One day we're going to see each other, Chris.
Absolutely, John. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, this is John Chen. You've been on another Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, and Chris says, right, don't let the chaos get you down. Get a producer. All right, and there's lots of us out here. I don't care if it's Chris or myself or somebody else. What we care about is that, well, Chris and I are on a mission to end the suffering. End the suffering in horrible virtual and hybrid meetings. And just so do us a favor and check that out. And speaking of do us a favor, do me the favor, subscribe, share, like, comment if you're here on social media. Be like my friend Barbara Jenks, who's been giving it up to us all through the conference here, this podcast. You want all the podcasts, got to go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. You can see all of the podcasts, over 80 episodes. We just hit download 1,000, and we're almost to download 2,000. So help me out. Click the button. And on any of your 13 platforms, and you want to take it to my conference and figure out how you want to see all this stuff in action. One of the coolest features of this conference is that we put the production station in the middle of the room. You can sit behind me and watch all the things that I or any of my producers are doing, and you will learn without us even talking to you. You're like, wow, what's he doing? Wow, whoa, what was that? And so, my best part about this is be like Chris, right? Be like Chris. Go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you too could be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. We'll see you next time.